Evening, everybody. Welcome to the licensing meeting, the 27th of November. We're going to move straight on to the agenda. Just like you to approve the minutes of the committee meeting held on the 24th of October. Say yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. To receive any apologies from the floor? No? I have the apologies for Councillor Adams, Councillor Helen Adams, and Councillor Robert Reid. Can I ask if there's any declarations of interest? Just move straight on to item 4 and go over to Lee for the delivery of the taxi and private licensing functions. Lee?
Thank you, Chairman. Good evening, members. The purpose of the report this evening is to advise on the current arrangements for the delivery of taxi licensing, which is currently contracted, and the contracted end period is March 2025. So we're looking to consider sort of future delivery after that. Just to note, any reference to taxi licensing throughout the sort of presentation includes both hackney carriage and private hire. As members will be aware, South Staffordshire Council is the licensing authority for taxi licensing, and that's vehicles, drivers and operators. Since April 2022, the administrative functions of the taxi licensing regime have been delegated to the City of Wolverhampton Council, and the service is delivered on behalf of South Staffordshire Council. All licensing, as you're aware, continues to be in the South Staffordshire Council name, and we as a council have maintained the executive decision-making functions for all taxi licensing. At the time, the arrangement was for 3 years, with an option to extend for a further 2. And that 3-year period concludes at the end of March next year in 2025. Hard to believe, really, that it's gone that quickly. I think everyone would agree that the arrangement has worked very well with the City of Wolverhampton, both financially, the delivery of the service, and also in increased enforcement within the taxi sector. So one of the things that sort of led to the contracted service was partly fees. As a small district council, we struggle, to be fair, to sort of get any economies of scale, and therefore taxi licensing fees is a function which is required to sort of break even. So obviously, the more it costs us to do, the smaller the taxi fleet gets within the council, the more expensive it gets per license holder or license application. Obviously, Wolverhampton is a much bigger operation than ourselves, and also they've got dedicated sort of enforcement resources, which includes out of area enforcement teams that operate across the country. So City of Wolverhampton Council has committed significant resources to enforcement. As I've said, they've got a dedicated out of area enforcement team that enforce licence conditions wherever they operate in the country. In 2022, it was concluded that joint working was the best way forward to delegate the taxi licensing function, and this had several benefits to the trade and to public safety, which is obviously one of our overriding concerns and factors. For the trade, it offered greater choice, reduced costs, and for public safety, it offered improved enforcement, much more enforcement activity, and tighter standards. Since the delegation of the function in 2022, Wolverhampton have seen an increase in the numbers of both operators, drivers and vehicles licensed with a South Staffordshire licence. In fact, drivers wise, it's nearly doubled, and vehicles has more than doubled. So in addition, City of Wolverhampton, they offer far more sort of technological advancement. They undertake daily automated check-in of the applicant's DBS record. There's a vehicle booking system for the vehicle operators to book in their vehicles for their tests, and the site operates extended hours now, which gives them sort of greater flexibility. We've maintained a regular trade working group. Some other examples of improvements that the trade have seen, we're imminently due to introduce new contactless driver badges and QR codes, I think it is, on the vehicle plates, which will enable customers to verify driver licenses and vehicle licenses directly with the information held by the licensing authority. We've got online registers of wheelchair accessible vehicles, and there's a sort of web page which updates daily for the statistics for licence holders. Essentially, it's just a live link into the Wolverhampton licensing system. Enforcement-wise, there's been an increase in proactive operations and audits. Wolverhampton have also provided some assistance and vehicle control and supervision operatives for some of our larger events, for example, Camp Festival. We've undertaken, or Wolverhampton have undertaken, successful test purchase operations, have an unlicensed operator and driver, which has led to the prosecution file being prepared, and that's sort of ready for submission. And we've got a compliance team that's worked with trading standards, again, sort of targeting an unlicensed operator working in the South Staffs area, and using trading standards legislation. They were able to remove the website, which is believed to be the first action of its kind for that type of matter. And financially, as I mentioned earlier, all councils must set a taxi licence fee structure, and that should recover the costs of providing the service. At the time of the transfer, the delegated transfer in 2022, the annual income for South Staffs was in the region of £60,000 a year, but it was declining. At the time, it was recognised that we needed a review of fees and charges, and that we were subsidising taxi licensing from the general fund, and that there was likely to be an increase in fees and charges to the trade to cover the costs. City of Wolverhampton Council had paid South Staffs £60,000 a year during the contract term, and that's for the delivery of the executive functions and for service support costs. We've never budgeted for this income post the end of the 3-year agreement, and therefore there is no impact on the medium-term financial strategy. A full review of costings of the delivery of executive functions has been undertaken, and going forward, we're looking for that to be in the region of a reimbursement of £20,000 from the City of Wolverhampton. As I say, that's to cover executive functions, such as the hearings, contract management and reporting and such like. The financial risk of the administrative function of discharging taxi licensing lies entirely with Wolverhampton City Council or City of Wolverhampton Council. It's their ability to access greater economies of scale that sort of lower the taxi licensing fees for all applicants. Benefits to Wolverhampton in continuing the arrangement is, again, it supports them in their investment in technology and their economies of scale by supporting a larger pool of applications and licenses to maintain. In comparison, to be fair, South Staffordshire licensing numbers are very, very small compared to those otherwise issued by Wolverhampton. Currently, they issue 48,823 driver licenses, 34,190 vehicles, 456 operators in total. So it's a huge operation. City of Wolverhampton Council have made significant investment in their systems, which includes things like the passport style ID checking. And again, it's technological advancement like that a small district council, to be fair, would never be able to match. In terms of monitoring and reporting, we receive quarterly management reports, which are provided by the licensing team at Wolverhampton and then presented to members on the Licensing and Regulatory Committee. So, what are our options? If we've got two options basically. It's to extend and continue the operation or the delegation that we've got with Wolverhampton, or to consider taking it back in-house. If we were to take the licensing function back into South Staffs, as I've previously mentioned, there would be more than likely significant changes to the fee structure based on where we were before the delegation. Members will have seen in the bundle in table 2, there's a fees comparison, which indicates what our fees were, what they are now with Wolverhampton, and the difference. And as I say, for all but large operators, which have seen a small increase, they are significantly less of a financial sort of outlay for licence applicants. I think that concludes the report. If I can ask if there are any questions before we move to the recommendation.
Any questions, councillors? Penny Allen.
Thank you. Just briefly, in the past, I know Wolverhampton faced some queries about the volume of the applications through their authority because there was some concern about cars being checked in remote regions. I think we've been very satisfied actually with what's been given to us here, and I haven't heard that complaint again in the last year. So I'm assuming that other authorities are equally satisfied with the very good service they're providing. I certainly feel the safety of our residents is increased with the security that they're now providing. Is there any information that any other authorities made a complaint about this system of operating at all?
We've not been made aware of any concerns or issues regarding sort of the delegation of South Staffordshire licences being administered by Wolverhampton. As you say, enforcement is done by teams across the country who are directly employed by Wolverhampton City Council or officers employed by Wolverhampton City Council. And there is a condition on all of the licences that they comply with enforcement officers from any council across the country. So any feedback would go directly to Wolverhampton, but again, it would be fed back during the contract monitoring and reports that we receive from their team.
Thank you. I think that's reassuring, and I think it's been an excellent service, and the reports are extremely well presented. I think that's something which any other authority would struggle with.
Councillor?
Thank you, Chairman. Sorry I'm late. Sorry this is broken. Anyway, such is life. Just to ask, £50,000 you say that we're being paid by Wolverhampton. Can I ask what kind of cost to the council giving that to Wolverhampton? Is that, well worth it, or does it mean that we got £50,000 pure profit?
So the figures mentioned in the report, it's £60,000 was the income that we were received when we administered the function ourselves. Basically, because we weren't having that income when Wolverhampton took over the delegation, they paid us for that gap essentially. Going forward, if the arrangement is continued, what's projected is the costs to run the administration of the system, the executive functions, so committee meetings like this, any hearings that we need, and the sort of support mechanism, contract monitoring, that kind of thing, would cost us in the region of £20,000, and negotiations are kind of ongoing with Wolverhampton for them to reimburse us that cost. So they would maintain all of the administration, pay us the costs that we incur to sort of monitor the contract and to oversee essentially the executive functions, if that helps.
You mentioned that vehicles had their own unique QR code, quick response code, and that. How do they, obviously a vehicle has more than one driver, how do you actually know that how the driver is related to the vehicle at the actual time of day and week and things like that? Do you know how that works?
In terms of licensing, there is no necessity for a link between a driver and a vehicle. It's the key link is the operator. So the vehicle and the driver have to be linked to the same operator, which all have to be licensed by the same authority. So vehicles can be shared. The important thing is that the vehicle is licensed, the driver is licensed, and that this trilogy, if you like, so vehicle, driver, operator, is all done by the same licensing authority. And so there's not really a mechanism to link a vehicle and a driver. It's just to validate that they are actually licensed. In terms of sort of the apps like Uber, that will link the driver and the vehicle and tell you exactly which driver and which vehicle you're expected to receive for your journey. But that's outside of the kind of Wolverhampton system.
I'll just call on Councillor Mick Barrett, please.
Thank you. Obviously, it's taken quite a time to get this organised, and certainly the last 3 years have really proved that having Wolverhampton do this task for us has been very beneficial, both for us and for residents. I think there is no way that this authority could have done the checks that Wolverhampton do, and there was no way that for the costs could we possibly provided the service that they are paying. I mean, we have the regular checks with Greg, who comes here, and all questions that we ask are answered. I just feel that this has been a very, very good exercise in working together. It's been very cost effective, and the safety for the drivers and for the residents has been very beneficial. I can see absolutely no reason that we shouldn't continue with this. I think it's a win-win situation for everyone, and I'm all in favour of this. Thank you.
Councillor?
Agreeing with what Meg has said, I think it's difficult to believe that the taxi licensing administrative functions have been delegated to the City of Wolverhampton Council since April 2022. I'd like to compliment Jenny and the team for all the work which has gone into producing this report. It's very full, very explanatory, and there have been many benefits both to the council, to the drivers, and obviously to our residents. And I do think it's important to note that the City of Wolverhampton Council actually have more staff in their department overseeing taxi licensing than we've got in the whole of our environmental health team. And I think that just shows the scale of the operation. There are many advantages, both for the trade and for our residents, with the reassurance that greater enforcement practices are in place, and any financial impact has been fully explained in the report, and any questions that Lee has answered. I'd like to add that throughout this arrangement, we've had regular reports and updates to the L&R committee by Greg Bickerdike. They've been full and very open, and as Meg has said, I think this is the way forward for us. I think there are benefits for every party involved in this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I'm sure we'd all approve that. It's wonderful what they've done for us, and we do thank them deeply. Wish them a Merry Christmas. As Chairman, I would just like to move to approve the recommendations. I'll first. I need a seconder, please.
I'll second that, Chair.
Well, committee, it's brought us to the end of this meeting, and I'd just like to yeah, but it wasn't needed. Okay, then, thank you. Well, let's just go back to thanking you all, even the latecomers, Penny, and over there on the wing. But you're wonderful people, and if I don't see you, which I'm going to, I wish you all a happy and a prosperous new year. Thank you.